Welcome back. So for this video, what I want to talk about was butt joints. Now, butt jointing the material is when you have the two pieces of material literally just meeting, butt to butt end. So normally, you wouldn't want to do that on your first layer. Because you don't want to end up creating, like if you butt joint your first layer, so there's a piece of material, there's a piece of material, you will actually create a void in the middle that's just going to fill up with resin. And that's not going to be the greatest. You're going to see it, it's going to be a weak spot. That's not the best way to do it. So you should overlap your first layer if you can. Now, the reason why we're going to want to do butt joints in the first place is if the backside of the part is either going to be visual, where you're going to see it, or if you are actually going to want to bond something to it. Because having an inconsistent thickness over your bond surface is going to suck. You're going to have to grind away material and you're going to weaken your part. It's not going to be great. It's going to be a lot of extra work for you. So what you should want to do is you should want to do butt joints of the material. So let's say again, we have our hood. What you can do is your first layer, because your first layer, let's say, is going to be your lightest material, you're going to overlap your first layer, standard 10 to 25 mil. And then after that, what we're going to be doing is butt joining all of our heavier layers, our actual structural layers behind it. So if we take our next layer and we put it on top, this isn't going to be fair because I don't have another thick marker like this. So we put our thick layer on top and we butt join it over here. Okay, so we've overlapped our overlap like we did in the last one, but then we're going to butt join it, let's say 25 mil, 35 mil past, so an inch, inch and a half past. The next layer that we do is going to go back the other way. So now let's say we're going to take we're going to go past, let's say 2 inches, 50 mil, and then we're going to butt joint that piece together. And then we're going to go the next one. So again, that's a 3 layer. But let's say we're going to go again. We're going to go past it, right? And then again, you're going to go past and past and past, depending on how many layers you need. So every single one of these layers, because you're going to be going past at least 25 millimeters, that's going to almost count as the overlap of the previous layer. So let's say you had 30 layers. Let's pretend we didn't overlap our first layer here. Okay, let's pretend we didn't overlap our first layer. So now it's a butt joint. Okay, so there's 4 layers, right? So now there's a butt joint here. We overlapped it with the next layer. So there's one overlap. The next one, we overlap it with the next layer. There's 2 overlaps. Third one, we overlap it again. There's 3 overlaps. We have 4 layers, we have 3 overlaps. We're down an overlap. You can or cannot include the first layer overlap if you want into your equation. It doesn't really matter because the second layer is going to be doubling up on your overlap anyway. But when you have very large structural pieces, let's say 10, 11 layers, you're going to be down 1 overlap. But overall, it's not going to affect the part's strength that much. Because you have so much material and you've staggered where all the butt joints are, you're not creating a weak point. So you're not in this area because you're moving them around. There's no weak point in the part for it to focus its stress and break. So this can be how you get your smooth backside. Like if you want to have a large panel and you want to look really nice on the inside, let's say it's the inside of a hood, and you want to open it up and you want to see it, and you want it to look great, that's how you do it. Let's say you're making a flat panel, and it's a big flat panel, and let's say you are only doing unidirectional. Unidirectional, because like, let's say you don't have that wide of a sheet. Let's say you have a 24-inch wide sheet and you're making like a 4-foot panel. You don't want to put the unidirectionals on either side of the panel every single time. You want to move it around, right? That still gives you the strength of the panel. Like you're going to be moving around orientations, you're going to be like 45s and 90s and zeros and whatever you're doing. But you don't want to have it land in the same spot every time because you don't want to create those weak points in your actual laminate. So you want to move them around. The same thing happens if you're doing a corner, right? With a corner like this, what I don't want you to do is I don't want you to have a butt joint in the corner, because that's just going to be a complete weak spot. So if you need to butt joint, if you can't overlap first layer, what you can do is you can basically do the same thing that we were doing before, where you bring it around the corner, and then you can butt joint into the bottom. And then when you do your next layer, probably already guessed, you're going to bring that around and up, and then you're going to butt joint and go up from there, and you're going to alternate, and you're going to move it further and further out. If you have too many layers, you're probably going to have to double up where you have these spots, but that's only if you have like many layers. If you're anything past 4 or 5 layers, you're kind of screwed. But up until then, you can probably move it 1 inch, 2 inch on either side of this corner, and you're going to be fine. And then that way you also don't have a lot of extra buildup in the corner. So if you need the inside of this corner to look nice, or if you're going to be bonding another panel into this corner, and you need this to be nice and clean and flat, you're gonna wanna do something like this. That way you don't have a lot of buildup in the corner, and you're able to get in there with what you need without having to clear it out too much. Like, you don't wanna remove material if you don't have to, because that removes strength. What you wanna do is you wanna laminate that in such a way that you don't have a lot of buildup. Anyway, thank you very much. So I'm gonna try to do several videos back to back. That way I can provide you guys with as much information as possible. And if you have any ideas or suggestions, please put them down in the comments below, and I'll try to answer them or get back to them as quickly as I can. Thanks.